Yo people, it's Retro J, aka J Soteric, aka Retrograde Pappy, and just Jacob. Many more names to come. I'm at work right now, but I'm like, let me just do this video now. I've been procrastinating. Mars is squaring Jupiter, and apparently not apparently, but it kind of, with Mars being a Taurus, like passions are kind of like at a standstill right now. People are fighting for stability right now, so stillness is the most important thing. Well, not most important, but it's a drive right now. But then Jupiter squaring Mars in Aquarius, so people are expanding on ways to find security outside of, not security, but ways to exist in life, period. Rules and regulations that are different from the norm as well. It's like trying to be stable while we're going through all these new changes in laws, Jupiter, in education, in travel rules and regulations as well. All dealing with Aquarius, new rules. But yeah, this video is about retrograde placements and their correlation to classic moments in history. Now, this doesn't always have to be on such a big scale. It could just be on a minor scale in your own life, but I'm going to use famous examples because they're the most notable and you could just go look at it for yourself, and I don't care to get into personal people's business. But yeah, for example, I've noticed with Mercury retrograders,
continue on to Great Dover,
the way we think and the way we communicate as well. Mercury retrograders tend to have classic moments when it comes to the things that they say, their ideas, their lyrics, and also the things that the conversation that circles around them as well tends to constantly happen a lot, over and over and over again, almost as if blanks out what they do in the present moment. And they can feel a lot of the times like there's no point in me talking because people only remember what I did in the past. So as they get older, they might refrain from saying certain things or talking as much because of that, or it can cause mix-up with friendships and stuff like that. But anyway, in general, the benefit is classic moments. Like, for example, the first person that came to my head when I thought about this is Lil Wayne. He's got Mercury retrograde in Libra. Libra is dealing with cardinal air. It's also dealing with features as well, like when people partner up. And it's also dealing with contracts, negotiations, things like that. And we can see that Lil Wayne has had a lot of successful, like classic moments where he might have featured on someone else's tune, or feature someone on a tune, and it's something that you can play back over and over again. Or yeah, he remixed a lot of other people's stuff. He came up doing mixtapes, and that's what made him big, I guess. Well, no, I'm sure he had other projects, but anyway, you get my drift. He's got classic moments. And in regards to the conversation centering around him, which is about his contracts with Birdman and all that kind of stuff that held him back from releasing an album before, what, the Carter 5 or 4, yeah, that's classic as well. Also, his relationship with Birdman as well, and that kind of the little sketchy stuff going on there, that's classic too. People will always recall these kind of situations. Retrograde people can the struggle could be people, yeah, not being able to kind of outrun your shadow to an extent, or outlive the past. That could be a constant thing that lingers, you know. But anyway, with Venus retrograde now, or what's another example of someone with Mercury retrograde? Meg Thee Stallion, Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. Tory Lanez, Mercury retrograde in Leo. We're seeing it right now. They're playing out classic moments and they're back and forth with each other on tracks. What happened with the shooting, the media involvement, that's all Mercury. Venus retrograde now. This is deal with, Venus is about how we relate. It's about our art, our relationships, how we smooth over rough edges. So I'm going to use artists or people. Whenever you have a love for something, you're going to develop an art form around that. You're going to do something repeatedly until you develop your own style. So people with Venus retrograde do this thing repeatedly till they master it. So they can end up creating a lot of classic moments with their art, or when they're doing something beautifully or adding finesse to something, you know, their own kind of niche to something. That's Venus retrograde is like. For example, in the UK, if you're watching this from America, we got J Hus. He's got 2 classic albums under his belt already, and classic freestyles as well. Go YouTube it. Venus, and his Venus is in Gemini, and Gemini deals with communication that is adaptable to all kind of all social backgrounds and things like that. Especially with retrogrades, I've also noticed that they have a universal quality to them. So a lot of like a Venus retrograde artist will kind of make their art so it can appeal to everyone, but it's still gonna have their personal touch to it, because retrogrades is dealing with your inner universe, your universe, you know, universal laws and things like that as well. But yeah, so you got Venus retrograde in Gemini. You got classic freestyles, Drake. Venus retrograde in Scorpio, you know. His is more so emotional, like him sticking to his guns and choosing to be like, I'm gonna express my emotions, even though this isn't typical for men to do. It wasn't cool at a certain point, but now people go back to them times where they were cussing, when he was releasing music that they were like taking the piss out of, or making a joke out of. Now it's classic stuff, you know. Even when he releases an album, it might seem like he missed the first time. Come back to it a year later, you're like, what the hell? This was classic. How did I not? Yeah, it gets like that with retrograde people. But also relationships in general. If you have Venus retrograde, people could bring that up a lot. It could feel like there's a timeless loop in your relationships. So it's important with Venus retrograde to tie up loose ends, because you could be very spiritually connected to past circumstances. But it can benefit you in art, because you can always remember. You know, you can continue on an ongoing storyline. So it really works well for art if you're an album artist and things like that, and you want people can reflect and see the journey in your art. What else? There's this footballer called Aguero, Venus retrograde in Gemini as well. Gemini dealing with your neighborhood, you know, your background. He plays for a club, Man City, that became popular in their city for football in recent years, because they had billionaire investors come in and things like that and changed up the club. He's got goals. Or he's got a classic moment for that club where he scores, and the commentary, Gemini, the commentator, and how they narrated the situation, that's classic. They're like, Aguero! Like the way the commentator said it, people will never forget it. They go back to it just for that. And the goal as well, it was a special moment. It was just at the right time. Retrogrades know how to capture the right moment. Like that's the blessing. Now with Mars retrograde, this will be dealing with your goals, your intent, your passions. You know, when you have a passion for something, it's because you've been restricted from it. You know, you've had to fight for it. It's not just something that comes easy, like Venus to an extent. You know, it's not something that makes you comfortable like the moon. You have to get the will to get it. So a lot of times there can be opposition when we have Mars energy. So even your opposition, your clashes when you have Mars retrograde, those are classic. A lot of the times, like there's this artist called Chip in the UK in London. He's got Mars in Gemini too. Freestyles. There's the grime scene. It's kind of like the form of rapping that was kind of developed originally here in the UK. Original, dealing with retrogrades, past tense energy. Yeah. So he very much mastered that style, and now he's always like. He's had classic moments in the UK where he's defended his title as one of the best grime artists, you know, going up against the best. You know, and despite how talented he is and his ability to, his versatility, people remember him most for those clashes. That's when he tends to get the most like viewership. So it might even frustrate him at times, you know, when he's trying to promote something else or go in a different direction. But that's what comes as well. Another person that came to my head, Michael Jordan, Mars retrograde in Leo, and we see his moments of entertainment, expressing himself, standing out on the basketball court. You see the Jordan logo now. That's classic now. That's classic. Retro J's. I come out of Retro J because of Michael Jordan. Like that documentary. You see, even when you're watching his past life as an athlete, Mars, as a warrior, you see how special he was, and the fact that you can watch it nowadays and still get motivated, still get inspired by past actions, past goals, past wins. That's Mars retrograde. People are inspired by what you've done back then, so don't even, trust me, you can live a lifetime off what you did in the past. That's another benefit to retrograde. You can literally live off what you've done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know. People will keep going back. Obviously, it won't be everything you do that has that effect, but it's a higher probability with this energy. Another person, Meg Thee Stallion again, Mars retrograde in Leo. Her dancing, the way she moves her body, the way it stands out is classic. Like, and she's influenced a lot of people, a lot of women especially. Even her clashes now with Tory. It's crazy. Oh my days, this shit is crazy. Yeah. I'm trying to think of any more beef she might have had. No. But yeah, she's going down in history because of what's going on right now with her. Now we go into Jupiter retrograde. This is dealing with wisdom, knowledge, experience, the experiences that you've gone through in your life, experiences where you've expanded, where you've grown significantly. Past tense, again, the things that you first learn in life, or the historical education that you take on, learning things about history in general. These are things that you can take with you throughout your entire life, and it'll never get old. Even your moments of expansion will never get old. Like, people can frequently remember what happened when you took off or took flight, when you traveled somewhere new that you've never been to before, as well as yeah, in general, your documentaries as well, your story, like what your truth. People will always, like, you can create a lot of classic moments. You might even want to constantly put what you did and what you experienced in the past in people's faces as well. And the person that comes to mind the most, again, Drake, but then IJade on Twitter. If you don't follow her, follow her. If she watches this, I remember her saying she had Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius. Aquarius is dealing with social media, technology, the internet, and she blew up on social media off of like a childhood thread or something like that, motherhood thread. Boom, and she just went to a new space and she ain't going back. Literally, and astrology, a form of wisdom and knowledge that's ancient, is something that will never die. It's universal, it's timeless. Like, so constant abundance can be reaped from that if you have Jupiter retrograde, depending on what historical education you actually have. Like, you might even just have an inner knowing of certain things with Jupiter retrograde, you know? So you can recall past life experiences. Kind of similar to having a moon placement in like Cancer or something, or any of the water signs. It can play out kind of similar. But also Cancer placements can deal with classic moments as well, historical moments. And moving on finally to Saturn retrograde, this would be dealing with how one gains structure in their life. You know, your security or your status as well, how you gain your status when you were restricted from a status, when you're maintaining a certain position, or when you're trying to level up to a position. These are classic moments in your life too. When you discovered your boundaries, like, or when you came up against certain rules and regulations in your life, these are classic moments too. Yeah, when you level up in your career, or when you downgrade in your career, dealing with Saturn, yeah, classic moments. I can't really think of anyone right now that comes to head with the Saturn placements, but if you got it, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Also, if you got any moon sign as well, your moon is dealing with the past as well in general, so energies to deal with your moon, that'll cause a recollection a lot of the time. So people that are very like not moon dominant, but people that know how to tap into their emotions, you can get people to reflect and go back to the past and want to keep going back to your energy when they're in a certain mood, because emotions are working a cycle, right? Life is a cycle, things come back around, history repeats itself, all of that stuff. So yeah, if you wanna book a reading with me, get at me on Twitter, retro_J_knows, or retro_J_knows, one of the two. Instagram, IDGAF_JJ, and I'll leave my email in the description as well if you fuck with this video. Yeah, man, if you want to get a reading, yeah, let me know. Peace.